Hey, I'm Srini, the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem. Imagine what you could get done if you had a team that didn't need to sleep, didn't need to eat, never took breaks, and that you didn't even have to pay. If this all sounds like science fiction, it's not. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use the power of MemChat to simulate human roles and unleash the full potential of AI and increase your productivity like never before. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how you can use the capabilities of MemChat to build an AI team. So one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that we can use AI to simulate different roles within a company. And the cool thing about that is it gives you the ability to basically replicate a human employee without having to necessarily hire them and do some very complex tasks. And this is something that I discovered when I was having a conversation with MemChat a few nights ago, having it look at some data and asking it, what would it be like to have me use your abilities to simulate a data analyst in a company? And then I asked it, what other roles could we simulate? And it gave me a list. And so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about how we can use MemChat and simulate a virtual CEO for your company and use that capability to do things like analyze large data sets, make strategic recommendations, etc. So a couple of things that we have to do before we can actually use the MemChat capabilities. And that's going to be to identify the key business areas that you want to actually have data around. Now, this is going to be different for everybody. In my case, most of my data tends to be metrics around content consumption, like the number of views a video got, the number of page views a blog post gets, the number of email subscribers or click-through rates on a campaign, that kind of stuff. So this varies from person to person, but you can apply the basic framework that I'm going to show you here to any type of business. And MemChat can even help you determine what those key business areas are. So in this case, we have a couple of examples here: product development, user acquisition, team performance. So for example, if you have meetings with people on a regular basis, you might want to keep track of those and basically have a analysis of your employees inside of Mem. The next thing you want to do is you want to define what your relevant metrics are going to be. If you have a product, it could be new users. For me, it's the number of views on a YouTube video or the number of sales for our Maximize Your Output course. And then what you want to do is get to the meat of this, which is really where a lot of the work happens. So a lot of this is going to depend on your data gathering. And as I've said before, really a lot of the output that you're going to get from MemChat is going to be determined by the quality and depth of the data that you have inside of these different MEMs. So in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using two MEMs to apply this virtual CEO template. So I have one template here called Content Metrics Analysis. And you can see here, it's just a jumble of data. And what this is basically is a list of all my various YouTube videos, the titles, and the number of views that each one of them has gotten. So I'm actually going to remove these ones because I know the reason that those are much more popular than some of the others. They are ones that we drive ads to. So I'm just going to remove those from this for the sake of the analysis. And then what you will want to do, and this is completely optional, but it also can make things easier when you say are applying a template to a large group of MEMs. You might be better off putting them into a virtual CEO collection. So for example, if you had a product development MEM or a user acquisition MEM or a content metrics MEM, and you put those all into one collection, you would be able to apply these templates more easily. Now, the next part of this is really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And that is, how are you going to develop the questions? Because you may not know what questions are worth asking in order to do this. So what you can do then is basically say, generate a list of questions about that will help me create a virtual CEO template. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this here. And you can see here that I was playing with it earlier. And I'm just going to say, generate a list of questions for a virtual CEO template that anyone could apply to any business. And then what it'll do is it will first come up with the list of questions. Now, the reason this is important is because of the fact that it will allow you to modify these questions. One other recommendation I suggest here with building out these questions is to actually have it reference specific MEMs. So I could specifically say, using the content and metrics analysis MEM, create a virtual CEO template or a list of questions. So you can see here that it actually is creating the template for us. And once it's done creating the template, what you would do then is you would just take the template, and using the content inside of the template, what you're going to do is you are going to go over here to flows, and you'll see here that I've actually set up these templates already for the sake of this demonstration. And I have two different templates here. One is a personal life coach template, which I thought was pretty interesting, as another way that you could use Mem. And you can see that right here. And again, all this depends on making sure that you have access to data that MemChat can reference and use for this. So we'll go ahead and see how this works, but I want to show you how this is all set up first. And then if you go here further down, you'll see that we have a virtual CEO template for content metrics. And I created a few different ones because I realized it would vary from metric to metric, but you can play with this a little bit and see if you can do different combinations of things. But you can see here that this basically was built using two collections and a couple of different notes. I basically said, hey, build out my virtual CEO template and the questions on it using the customer research collection. So let's go back to the outline for the video now. And you can see here that we have used MemChat to develop questions. We've used it to create a template. And that, of course, assumes that you've done steps 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is probably the most important step, because if it doesn't have a mem to reference, then it's not going to work. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the virtual CEO template that I've created and have it apply this to it and come up with a list of strategic recommendations. And let's see what it comes up with. So I'm going to go ahead and say, apply the virtual CEO template to content metrics and analysis and my customer research collection. And I said, use numbers and make actionable recommendations based on the template and the data. And what you'll see here is that it's going to give me a bunch of different things. As you can see here that it's actually telling me different things about acquisition and retention, strategic partnerships, financial management, all sorts of stuff. So this is actually pretty good. And we can go further into it, and we can actually have it do a more detailed analysis and say, okay, great. Based on product development service, what kind of things would you create? So I could say, okay, what if we wanted to make this more specific? And how about some recommendations for the types of topics to cover? And the other thing you could do is, if you didn't feel like this template was thorough enough, you could ask MemChat, okay, what kinds of questions should we put into the template so that you would have given me this output to begin with? So this is one thing that I always emphasize with AI, is to ask the AI, if you're not getting what you want, how you should have phrased your prompts differently, or how you should have structured your data differently. So you can see here that we've taken a pretty large data set, and we've got a couple of different ideas for content that I could put onto my YouTube channel for different tutorials. But let's do one more example here. And we're going to apply the life coach template. And so life coach template has a couple of different questions in it. And the questions were built around my personal goals and productivity, just things that I'm working on. And I did this as a sample. So this isn't everything that I'm working on, but I just basically said, these are my recent productivity levels, things that I'm working on, resources and support. And so I'm going to have it apply the personal life coach template to this particular note. And then what it will do is it will go through the same process that we just did with the other one. So you can see here, this one is probably not as good. And part of the reason for that is because of the fact that the structure of the data isn't particularly useful. And even when I created the template, I didn't actually set this up in a good way to make it more effective in terms of processing the data. So basically, because of the fact that it was titled video, it thinks that this is a video outline. So again, this is where the way that you structure your data, the way you use titles, matters a lot. So really what I want to do is I want to go and update the note, and then based on the updates in the note, ask MemChat to say, okay, come up with a better life coach template so that I can actually use MemChat as a life coach. Just to recap the steps here, the first thing that you're going to want to do is identify the key business areas, define relevant metrics, and then create a different mem for each business area. Another thing that you could do is you could actually ask Mem, based on whatever I'm currently working on, give me a list of potential roles that I could simulate using Mem chat, and then create a series of templates for each one of those roles. So basically what you're going to want to do is define relevant metrics, create a mem for each of the different areas, potentially or optionally group them into a collection, work with memchat to ask questions about that so that it has questions that references that specific data that you can put into your template. And then you just apply the template anytime you want to do an analysis of any sort. And that more or less is how you can start to build out an AI team with memchat. So think about what this makes possible. It allows you to do a lot of things at scale that you were not able to do before. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.